Okay, well, I hope everybody had an opportunity to have some good conversation. We are now going to move into the report outs, and I'm wait just another couple of seconds so people rejoin. And I'm going to start in alphabetical order with Group A. So if the scribe from Group A would like to report out on the key takeaways from their breakout session.
Hi, Ethan. This is Laurie Hermansmore. I was the scribe for Group A. And we had two major topics, which were communicating back to our organizations and the value of serving as a delegate. So speaking about the communication back to our organizations, the key point was that we need to lead when there are issues to discuss and when feedback needs to be gathered from our organization. So as a delegate, you're really in a role where you're trying to gather feedback from your own organization and work to bring that to delegate council so that issues will eventually get elevated. The delegates in our group talked about a number of communication vehicles that they used, primarily things like emails, committee meetings as needed, board reports, making a formal report back to the board, discussing at board meetings, and using newsletters. And there was a recognition that they may need to socialize a topic to get feedback. But it's also important what you communicate. So one of the key things that people recognized was that they need to communicate back to their organizations what NGS can do, what the 3 C's are that we're discussing today. And they want people locally to know that they're contributing to a national organization. All right, the second major topic was value of serving as a delegate. And one key area there is the idea of getting information, knowledge sharing, networking, and support and best practices. In essence, it's how do you learn from your peer group? And then finally, Group A discussed quite a bit better communication and connectivity to NGS. So comments such as NGS has a lot to offer. We want to make sure that our tiny society can use that info to increase membership. And this is the first time I've become fully aware of what the purpose and value can be from NGS legacy FGS, reminding people locally that this exists and the opportunity to connect. And finally, a couple of points were made about recruiting other organizations, other genealogy organizations, to become an organizational member of NGS. And we also discussed the advocacy and records access. So NGS and the International Association of Jewish Genealogy Societies is doing this now in the RPAC coalition, but others can join that. And that's the summary from Group A.
Thank you, Lori. And we have Sherry from Group B.
Hi, I'm Sherry Hudson-Passy, and I'm the scribe for Group B. We had so many wonderful ideas, trying to write them down, get them down. Our group is really excited. The number one thing they kept saying was, we are not alone. We have got a support group that will help us, and we can help each other. They talked about the different things that they're going to go back and talk to their board members, their committee chairs about, is the fact that they do have support, that there's value in the things that NGS is providing, that this delegate council is an exciting place to collaborate, to communicate with other people, to share ideas. And they were talking about how a lot of their questions have been answered already just by other people in their different groups. So that was wonderful. They need help with tech questions is a big thing, is those tech questions. They want to be able to go back and explain to their society how NGS will help them. Some of them saying their groups don't even know why NGS is even having a delegate council. What is a delegate? What is all this all about? What can they offer? So they want to go back and explain in their excitement what NGS can do and what the delegate council can do. Now, as far as their value as a delegate, they were interested in what things they can take up to the board, what kind of questions, and we talked about how the delegate council itself was something that came about from the board to help them as the board saw a need. They were interested in knowing what kind of projects that NGS might take up next and what they can do to help those. They were interested to see that the value was not only the communication between themselves as delegates, but that communication to NGS and to the board and the power that gives them. And I think they really like the answers that they were given from those facilitating the group. Is this is your delegate council. You are the ones that are going to decide how it functions, how it's going to work, and what's important to you. And so I think that that was a big topic that we discussed. I think really what we got out of this is an important event today. They are grateful for it and excited and are looking forward to the rest of the day. And that topic of "we are not alone" kept coming up.
That's great. Thank you. Okay, and Group C, we have Susan.
Yeah, Group C, I talked about a lot of the same things. The first thing we talked about was network and collaboration benefits, the benefits that we can learn from everybody else, and the wealth of info that is available by learning from other groups and other organizations. We also talked about the communication with other organizations for strategic planning as a lot of organizations go into the future post-pandemic and how that's going to affect us. A lot of people, we talked about how COM is going to continue after today's workshop, and that brought into play the Higher Logic platform and the Facebook group. Right now, of course, we're talking on Facebook group, but the Higher Logic will allow us a lot easier communication. Then topics will be easier to follow and to find. We're looking at what's working for others, membership, fundraising, and hybrid meetings. So that was a topic of conversation. We talked about interns, getting help from interns, both high school and college interns, that how they could help us approach some of our problems and help us. I also talked about the benefits of some of the resources on the NGS website as far as reviews of your website, newsletter, bylaws. And also there's a board source resource on the NGS website that could help us. We talked about how the thinking is to, Greg talked about what the bylaws, what's going into the bylaws has changed in the last few years. So you might want to go on and see what's changed and how your bylaws may have changed, need updating. We talked about how we can spread the word and about getting help from NGS. If some people think that maybe a delegate is just a bottleneck, but a delegate is their job is actually to communicate back to the organization how they can get help from NGS. So, and that was about it. It was a lot of the same things.
Thank you, Susan. Well, I'm glad that there were so many similar themes. I took some notes, and kind of the first thing that came to my head is, in my professional community, we use a phrase often called the power of and that's the power of association, the power of bringing people together and leveraging that shared knowledge, that shared experience. Talking through obstacles, talking through challenges, in addition to kind of, celebrating victories and trying to replicate those victories. And that's a big part of the framework that will exist in the Delegate Council. And sharing that knowledge, being able to network, making sure that we have the platforms that will facilitate that networking, and making it as self-service as possible. Again, making sure that all of the delegates have the understand and have the access to the platforms to interact kind of on demand as much as possible. You also talked about some of the self-service resources that are already in place through BoardSource as an example, and that's a great resource for helping to influence your governance models at smaller organizations. Wanting to know what NGS is doing next. Obviously, there's going to be delegates are going to be the primary conduit for that kind of communication. Delegates will also influence those initiatives. Their organizations through the Delegate Council will influence what we do in the kind of genealogy community at large. So that is another purpose of the council. Any other things kind of percolating, any other takeaways that were triggered by the report outs for anybody?
We are not alone was the main theme in
Right.
Group B. So yes, we are not. You are all here. You're here for each other and we're here for you.
Right. Yeah, I meant to repeat that when I used the power of A. That's what triggered that thought. You are not alone. This is your community.
You mean from outer space?
Well, maybe.
One of the things that came out in the chat in Group B, Ethan, was the excitement about getting new ideas from both from NGS and from other groups. So I think there's a lot of anticipation about that.
Excellent. Anybody else with thoughts to share? And I apologize if I miss a hand up. I'm trying to scroll through the gallery as quickly as possible.
Ethan, let me just point folks out to the chat. Catherine Doyle's posted a link to the FlipSnack brochure for organization member benefits. You all received that with your delegate pre-meeting materials, so you should have that. We will be sending out a PDF of that material so you can share that around. You're welcome to share the URL as well so people can see it on the web, but we will have a PDF so you can print it. And there are also the links to the RPAC blog, and the RPAC information on the NGS website will be posted here shortly.
You're recording all of this. Will it be available to only delegates, or can we share parts of it with our members?
No, you can share it with your organization leadership.
Okay, how will that be presented, through Vimeo or what other means?
We're not sure yet, most likely YouTube.
Okay.
Ethan, I think Richard Wade had his hand up.
Okay, Richard.
I just was wondering what would have happened to this workshop if 600 organizations had sent delegates instead of 120 or whatever it is.
We would have been initially terrified, but you know, that would have been a good outcome. It would have been something great to navigate. I think we're looking forward to making sure that we're engaging that larger group, working hard to make sure that organizations understand the importance of getting that delegate identified first, because we do still have a fair amount who have yet to do that. And that's why we're recording the session. I'm going to make that available. Don't think that this is going to check every box for you all or the larger community, but these kind of dialogues will help us inform us about how to best communicate as well. And then also the communities that we will be putting up, the Higher Logic, over the summer will allow a lot more fluid interaction between individuals.
Will there be any opportunity for different kinds of societies to have communication between them? For instance, those who have a library, many do not. Those who do programming, or just a programming affinity group maybe, or DNA groups, things like that. Would there be a way for the chairs of those committees to collaborate with other organizations down the line?
Yeah, I think you're jumping the gun just a little bit, but in the next breakout, we're going to talk about how we will configure those online communities around topics, around geography, things like that. So that'll be the best opportunity to start drilling down into just those kinds of questions.
Okay.
And the benefit of this first workshop too is that, what a steering committee couldn't have come up with all these different ideas. This first gathering of the delegate council has 106 voices. bringing different ideas that are going to be helping everybody create a stronger sense of what our community's needs are, so that we can make there's different opportunities for communication council and collaboration to work successfully.
Sam, I think that's a great way of putting it. As I was been listening today, I'm thinking about, we're creating circles here. We're creating circles emanating out from NGS. We're creating circles emanating from the delegate council. We're creating subcircles just from connections between the groups that are represented here. And I think it's really exciting.
Agreed. And the breakout sessions will continue to build on that concept. So speaking of that, we have another break scheduled now, and we will reconvene. I have about 1:41 on the East. We will reconvene at 1:55, so just about 13 or 14 minutes. And then we will kick off the collaboration breakout session. So you all have a little bit of time to take a quick break, and then back at 1:55 Eastern.